Hey everyone, it's Xander.
And it's Alejandro.
And welcome to another review. Now if you couldn't tell from my Creeper World review, I absolutely love internet games and the independent developers that work on these things.
Wait, we're not doing a Better Days review?
No, we're not.
Well, why?
Read that. Yeah, exactly. So, on that note, let's get on with this. Now, out of all the internet games that there are, I have a soft spot for tower defense games. No, wait, that doesn't describe it well enough. I am a whore for tower defense games. I love them. I love their simple controls that even a laptop with a touchpad for a mouse can handle. I love the balance you maintain between monsters versus towers and power. I love the upgrading and building more and more stuff. I love blasting my enemies into little bits as they march down their preset paths. I love building an impassable valley of death.
I love holocausts. I love blitzkriegs. I love defensive lines. I love sieges, charges. I love mop-up operations and retreats. Wars across prairies, in streets, in trenches, in grasslands, in frozen tundras, through deserts, on the sea, in the air. I love every act of war that can occur upon this earth.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far, but nonetheless, tower defense games are still one of my favorite types to play online, and they are almost exclusive to the internet. However, when I fell in love with tower defense games, they weren't everywhere. Now everyone and their grandmother is making one of these games, including spin-offs of series that were already successful with their own main focus. And that's not even getting me started on the really shitty first tower defense games that existed. But from the flood of horrible tower defense games, there's one that towers, get it, over the rest. And one of these gems is Gemcraft. Gemcraft is a series made by Game in a Bottle Studios. They have done a few other games, but Gemcraft is their crowning gem. Okay, how many gem puns can I make before this gets old?
It's old already, and please leave the puns to Chunka Conroy.
Anyways, we're going to be covering all three of the currently released games, so grab some snacks. This could take a while. If there is any major downfall to tower defense games, it is that you are usually limited in the visuals. It's hard to make something that's breathtaking from a stationary top-down view. Gemcraft chose to make the most of this limitation by making a very lush-looking landscape and detailed buildings and pathways, rather than going for a cartoonish look. Not to mention all the little special effects from the gems when they fire and the creeps die and explode into particles. However, it still suffers from the usual problems. You only see monsters from a top-down view, and usually they are very small and hard to make out. On occasion, you'll fight a much larger creep, which gives you a better idea of what they look like, but for the most part, you might as well just be frying ants. Also, there's not much animation to these enemies. They just kind of floated down over the pathways. There's 3 series released so far, as I already said, with the 4th one on the way, so we have 3 stories to cover. Fortunately, they're very short and spoiler-free. Gemcraft, now called Gemcraft Chapter 1, was the first game made. The story is pretty cut and clear. You are a good wizard, and you have to stop a bad wizard and the hordes of monsters that are being made. Gemcraft Chapter 0, as you can guess from the title, is a prequel to the series. In it, you follow a completely different wizard, this time on their quest for the Gem of Eternity. Finally, we have Gemcraft The Lost Chapter, Labyrinth. Here you are yet another wizard who discovered a magical labyrinth, and you must venture to its center to uncover the secrets that it guards. This one takes place roughly around the same time as Chapter 1. Hopefully this didn't lose you guys, or I'm really screwed when I start explaining gameplay. The games don't shove a ton of story down your throat. The most heavy parts of the story are, of course, at the start and end of the games, and it's not difficult to follow. I'll be honest, with a story this simple, there's really only one thing that bothers me. How the hell did the wizards of this world figure out they could zap things with gems? Did they plan on this? Did they alchemize this crap? Or did they just kind of discover they could do this by accident?
What's this? This might sell for something. Ugh, glad I got before the spiders got to it. I didn't see anything.
And that's the best case scenario I have. I doubt it was that convenient.
The other scenario was that it ends up frying my pet while out on a walk.
Anyways, without spoiling anything, this game can get really creepy. I mean, the atmosphere is creepy, the monsters are creepy, the story itself is creepy, and there's a few nightmare fuel moments here and there throughout the games. Oh no, I'm not telling you where they are. I didn't get a warning, and neither do you. Alright, this is probably where I'm going to start to lose some of you guys. So I'm going to try and explain anyways. I'll take it slow. I'll cover the first game in its entirety, and then when I cover the second and third game, I'm going to go over the changes made. Gemcraft, like most tower defense games, keeps with this basic idea. Monsters move down a set path, build towers along the path, and place gems inside the towers to kill monsters. Simple enough. You can also drop the gems directly onto creeps as bombs though, something different from other tower defense games at the time. However, there are bigger changes to note. For one, you do not have different types of towers like in most games. And there's no distinction between flying and land monsters. You hit everything without the need for specializing. You can also build trenches on the pathway itself to slow down monsters for a short while based on how many trenches you dig. With each tower and trench you build, the cost to make them goes up. Now, the two biggest features that set Gemcraft apart from cookie-cutter tower defense games that were out at roughly the same time is the use of mana. You use mana to make your towers, to make your trenches and traps, to create gems and combine them. You even use mana to increase your total mana pool size. Yes, that's right. You're even spending mana to make more mana, and as a result, boost your regeneration rate of mana. Mana is also used to banish monsters that make it to your tower. So defeat is not determined by how many monsters slip through your defenses, but based on how much mana you have at the time of a monster reaching you. Let me repeat that so I'm absolutely clear on this. Mana is important. It does everything. Besides kill monsters, that's what the gems are for. There's a total of 8 types of gems, each represented by a different color and upgradable to different grades. Grade 1 is the lowest, and to my knowledge, there is no cap on what grade gem you can make, but you'll never really need to go past grade 8 tops. So, to briefly cover the different colors of gems, there is red, which usually has the highest base damage and has the splash damage attribute. Yellow, which has a percentage chance of dealing triple its normal damage. Blue, that slows enemies down for a bit. Orange, that leeches mana from enemies on top of the mana you get from normally killing them. Purple, that breaks an enemy's armor points till there's nothing left. Green, that deals poison damage, negating armor defense. Lime, that has a chance to chain hit a group of enemies. And Cyan, that can shock or stun enemies in place for a few seconds. Now, no tower defense game is complete without upgrades, and this one does it a little bit differently than the others. Now let's cover increasing your tower's power during a match by powering up your gems. Once again, it's all about the gems. Your towers just house the gems. Now, there's 3 ways to go about getting more powerful gems. 1, create a higher grade gem from the start by spending more mana to get it. 2, take 2 of the same grade gems and combine them. Doing so will merge the 2 gems into a single gem 1 grade higher than what they were. Also, you can mix and match different color gems to gain multiple attributes. Usually, dual color gems have higher generated stats than pure gems, but their special effects are decreased, and vice versa. 3, you can take 1 high-level gem and dump lots and lots of low-level gems into it. This is often considered the most cost-effective method and is known as super gemming. You can find the finer details online on the Armored Games or Congregate forums, as well as other strategies to use. No, I don't expect that all to sink in right away. There's only a few key points that you need to remember, so let's cover them. 1, mana does everything. 2, as long as you have enough mana, you shouldn't die. 3, you can upgrade gems damn near infinitely. 4, you can combine gems, regardless of their color or their grades. Now, this is only a fraction of the leveling up. The other leveling up has to do with outside of combat, and we're going to talk about that now. You level up by accumulating experience points from each level, and the experience you get is related to your score for the level. This means Gemcraft has managed to do something no other game has to this day. It actually made me give a shit about my high score. I've never been the most competitive player, but I'll make myself crazy trying to do a perfect run on a level to break my records when it comes to this game. When you first start playing, you'll have some pretty pathetic scores, but as you level up and spend your skill points, you'll blow those scores clear out of the water when you replay early levels with your new bag of tricks. This also means, with new high scores, you'll gain more experience, which is equal to the difference between your new score and your old score on the levels that you are replaying. Also, a pro tip in case you derp on this like I did, click the wave stones to call that wave instantly. It will shoot your score through the roof. With each level you gain, you get skill points to spend on spells that you unlock based on how high your current level is. This is to prevent breaking the game and making it too easy. I'm pretty sure letting players start with grade 6 gems on the first level is a bad idea. There's also a convenient reset skill points option, allowing a player to redistribute skill points at any time and try a new approach if their current one isn't working. Wow, that turned out to be a lot to cover, and that's not even getting into the advanced techniques you can find on forums and that. I'm not even going to touch the fine art of super jamming, making mana farms, or what the best combinations are to use in towers and traps. Al, what do you think so far?
Sorry, I was lost in thought for a minute there.
About what?
Oh, never mind. We were doing Gemcraft, weren't we?
Great. Not gonna lie, it's lacking. However, kind of like with Creeper World, it sort of works for this game. You really don't want happy, cheerful music or anything with this kind of a setting. The pure and total ambience of everything just adds to the creepy atmosphere and makes it even slightly more scary about what you are doing. Going across this just desolate land, infested with monsters, killing everything in sight. But that never stopped me from putting inappropriate music over the game.
Hey, wait, let me try that. Not bad, but I could probably do better.
While Al goes through his playlist, I'll cover the other games. Gemcraft Chapter 0 was a surprise for me. A sequel that was a prequel, and I'm not sure anyone else was expecting it. I wasn't too excited for it, thinking it was going to be a crappy filler game, and was I ever wrong. Visual and audio-wise, this game doesn't expand on things too much, but there are giant creeps that show up sometimes. So if you want something intimidating heading for you, they do the trick. There's also a few more portions of story spaced out instead of giving you everything at the start and at the end of the game. There's a few bits of story throughout it. Gameplay-wise, things got interesting. Most of the core gameplay was untouched, but now, instead of just one path, multiple paths were introduced, meaning creeps could come from several directions now, and your strategies had to be reworked. There were also monster beacons and spell shrines added. Destroyable objects with gem bombs, giving them a greater use. New monsters and epic levels were now archaic levels. Trenches were replaced with traps. This is probably the most significant of the changes. Instead of digging a hole and filling it with water, you could dig a hole and plant a gem inside of it. Traps did less damage, but fired faster and amplified the effect of the gem inside it, even if it was a dual gem. Outside of the levels themselves, there were still more changes made. Each level, besides archaic levels, had multiple modes to play on, and 3 at random will offer you triple experience points for clearing them. These modes are standard, just beat the level normally. Swarm, where you face nothing but annoying fast swarm monsters. Sudden Death, which is a one-hit kill level. Heroic, a higher difficulty setting over normal. Time Siege, a time level. Bleeding Edge, a harder difficulty than Heroic. Carapace, armored monsters only, similar to the Special Swarm level. Arcane, a higher difficulty than Bleeding Edge, and with an Arcane Guardian from the Arcane levels to kill. And last, there's Endurance Mode, better known as Fast and Easy Experience. You will abuse this mode like a $2 whore, because no matter how shitty you do on any endurance level, because it's endurance, it's considered a win, so you get experience points. Period. Even better when the endurance level is selected for the triple experience multiplier. There's also one final mode, but you'll have to play and beat the game yourselves to find out what it is. The last major change is the upgrade system. You still gain levels and experience based on your score, but there's more stuff to level up now than ever, making players grind levels more than ever and attempt to max out everything. It's also easier to reset skill points without having to reset them all. You can just click on the plus and minus buttons to be selective about which skills you do or don't need.
Okay, I'll have to play around with the unfitting music for Gemcraft later. What game are you up to now?
I just wrapped up Chapter 0 and now I'm getting ready to start Labyrinth.
Oh good, the one I started with.
The final game is Gemcraft Labyrinth. Visual-wise, they attempted to make the enemies look like they are properly moving over the map instead of just floating over it. It's mixed with met results. But when you play the game on the high speed setting, and you usually will, I'd say it's very convincing. Audio remains unchanged for the most part, no major differences here. Gameplay, as you'd expect, has been altered and spiced up. The traditional system of your high score is scrapped for a new system.
Wait, shouldn't you talk about the levels themselves first?
Usually I would, but this is related to that. Before you can even start a level, you are presented with a battle settings menu. From here, you can also access your skill points. The point of the battle menu is to replace the mode selection of the last game, making you experience more customization in how you play. You can choose to increase the monsters per wave, the number of monsters, monster health, and a few other things. The higher up you turn things, the harder the level will be, but also the higher your multiplier will be when you win. You also have to gain levels to unlock these harder settings. Skills are even more expansive than ever. Almost all your old favorite skills return, and a few new ones are tossed into the mix as well. Not much else to say there. The way you'll progress over the map is by going through section after section of the labyrinth, slowly unlocking new rooms from beating your current ones, working your way towards the middle. Levels have been tweaked a bit more. Shrines are now buildable towers, and there's two new structures besides them, walls and amplifiers. Some levels in Labyrinth lack a winding path, so you have to make one with walls that are very cheap to build. You can now also build towers right on the pathway or on your walls as long as you don't fully block the little bugs from getting to you. Yes, that would be the logical thing to do, but that doesn't make for good gameplay now, does it? Amplifiers are a new addition as well and are built around a tower and traps and do exactly what they suggest. They boost your firing gem's power. You'd be surprised what 8 amps and a grade 1 gem can do to boost the power of the center tower's gem. Just like with towers and traps, you can put stronger gems inside the amplifiers as well. The gems got a bit of a revision to them as well. Yellow went from triple damage to multiple damage, meaning if you pump enough yellow gems together, you go from a chance to do double damage to guaranteed double damage and a chance to do triple damage. Pump more into it, and you get guaranteed triple damage with possible quadruple. No, this does not cap out. I've seen gems deal 20 damage times their normal, guaranteed, on endurance runs. Lime has a similar effect. I'm not sure if this was the case in the past, but there's no cap for how many targets it can hit at one time now. Red became the Bloodhound gem, or was it Bloodbound? Either way, it gained power based on how many kills it had as well as being leveled up. On one last note, there's a few new things you'll run into, but I'll let you see them for yourselves. I've played several tower defense games, and while some come close, Gemcraft is still my favorite. Now, it's not perfect, and there's a few things I want to make a suggestion about. There's one big thing I've neglected to mention. You guys may have noticed it by now, and I'm going to be talking about that. You see, to get the full game experience with Labyrinth, you have to purchase the premium content. By doing so is the only way to get all Battle Amulet challenges, and most importantly, you get to play Endurance Mode. Endurance Mode, as you know, was free in the last game. However, after this game was made, Endurance Mode got moved to premium content. I personally feel a better way to do premium content is for there to be new stuff added that wasn't free by default before. Hell, sell full copies of the games, include some art sketches, bonus levels, etc. It's worked for things on the internet before, including games, and it can keep working. Not to mention, I'm sure they do get a decent amount of money from ad revenue. I support this series and its developers. And if they ever did release a Gemcraft bundle, I would totally buy it. However, they're not located in the States, so doing that is going to be a bit of a problem. However, I think they went about this the wrong way. There's better ways of doing premium content. Taking something that was previously free in the last game, and now you have to pay to play it in this one, that's a dickish move, hands down. There are other things they could have done to add to it, give you bonus content without taking something away that was previously free. Anyways, Gemcraft is more than just a little 5-minute time waster. The first game you can probably blaze through pretty quickly in under a week. The levels themselves aren't too bad, however the epic boss fights that they have, the epic levels, or whatever you want to call them, those did kick my ass. Chapter 0 was kind of the opposite. It whooped my ass a lot, but the big fights, I didn't have much of a problem with. And then there's Labyrinth, which was the easiest of them all so far. You could just grind away insane levels, and if you did buy the premium content, oh yeah, it got so much easier. Now, I've said pretty much everything I can say about this game, so I'm going to hand things over to Alejandro here, who started off with Labyrinth, and just let you hear his thoughts on the game, his experience playing through it. So you go and take it away.
Anyway, I started with Labyrinth almost just because a friend of mine was playing. I really have never played tower defense games with any sort of interest at all. It just seemed really rather unnecessary to me. It seemed arbitrary, and then I got to this game, and it was actually really interesting because it wasn't like other tower defense games where everything is preset, nothing can change, everything is the way it is. Like, you can't change the weaponry, you can't change the items, you can't change anything. In this game, you lose if you don't change anything. You almost have to combine gems for later levels, you almost have to combine different strategies with different levels. And there are more than just one type of attack on you. I mean, there are some enemies, some levels have just enemies go towards the goal, and you have to stop them. Then there are levels where you have to kill a certain tower with an endless number of waves, and that's totally different because the enemies are almost secondary to the main goal. And the interesting thing is the mana system keeps you from the lame sort of problems you get with other tower defense games. Like, unlike Xander here, I've never been fond of Plants vs. Zombies because it seems...
And that's why you suck.
And it seems unnecessary because you can't really change hardly anything there, it seemed. And it seemed like, other than the sunlight, there was no real meaning towards the sunlight at all, other than providing a time limit for you to have access to your plants or costing sunlight to make plants. In this game, mana actually also has to do with the enemies when they get to your goal. You can banish them. So it actually has another purpose, unlike a lot of these games. So I found it fun because you have to think. A lot of tower defense games, if you just build a good enough strategy, you win every time. And that's not the case with this game. So I would recommend it because even if you're not going to buy the premium content, you should still play it.
Attention all soldiers of the Millennium Battalion. This is a message from your commander. Friends, let's bring them hell.
Media warning, and neither do you. I'm surprised we got that on the first take.